Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chris Cheryl McDaniel. I'm the assistant editor for the Southern Region. We have with us today our regional director, Ms. Keisha Beasley, our regional editor, Retta Weister McCoy, and we have the awesome privilege of sitting in the company of none other than Soror Opal Lee. Thank you so much for entertaining us today and opening up your home so that we can come out and be in your greatness.
Well, I'm delighted that you young people thought about this old lady.
Well, Ms. Opal, you have shown us that at no age is activism too old to stop being active and making a difference in our community. Today, we want to just spend a little bit of time talking with you, learning from you at your knee, and tell us a little bit about what your life has been like growing up in Texas.
Well, maybe you know that I was born in Marshall, Texas, East Texas. And to tell you the truth, I didn't know what a white person looked like for a long time because the only person who came in our neighborhood was the L.B. Price man. And he had his car loaded with kitchenware and clothing and lotions and things that he sold to the people in our neighborhood. So I guess he was white. And then there was the store right down the street because we lived on University. It was Maranto's. So we'd go to Maranto's store, and never occurred to me that they were white people. I think they might have been Italians or something like that. But growing up in Marshall, I guess everybody seemed to love everybody. And if I got out of line, Miss Mitchell would tell me she was going to tell my mom. Ooh. And she might have had to spank me to get me in line. But the neighbors sort of looked after everybody's children.
Okay.
And I guess it was one of the happiest times of my life. We moved to Fort Worth in 1937. And I'm forgetting to tell you that in Marshall, when we celebrated Juneteenth, we go to the fairground. There'd be music and food. There'd be speeches and food. There'd be ball games and food and food and food and food.
Plenty good food.
I know that. Ooh, ooh. Oh, it was like Christmas. But when we moved to Fort Worth, people sort of celebrated in their backyards or with their friends until I met Mrs. Rolla. Lenora Rolla had been asked by the city of Fort Worth to gather the material that the blacks had written for the 175th birthday of Fort Worth. Miss Rolla couldn't find anything, absolutely nothing. So she started with a group of people, the Tarrant County Black Historical and Genealogical Society. And she began to gather materials about what blacks had contributed to Fort Worth. Now, one of the things that happened was that the Historical Society would do the Juneteenth every year.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember having Juneteenth in a little park called Sycamore Park. It was a tiny little park. But do you know the paper says there were 30,000 people for Juneteenth in that little park? 10,000 people a day. Now, the Historical Society took materials down there from them. I don't think they paid much attention to. But one time, when it was time to go, they only turned the lights out. They pulled a little switch. 10 o'clock meant you go home. And usually people did. Except this time, I got on a flatbed truck and stuck that card back in. And we parted till dawn.
Yes.
Now, we've been doing Juneteenth a long time. But then I met Dr. Myers. He was Dr. Ronald Myers. He was a Baptist minister. He was a medical doctor. He was a jazz musician, all rolled into one.
He sounds interesting.
And passionate about Juneteenth. In fact, he's responsible for 43 of the 50 states having Juneteenth celebrations.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And so Doc sort of put a bug in me or something, because I started thinking maybe I hadn't done enough. Now I'm 89 years old, and I had gone to college. I had taught school. We had a food bank. We had a farm. And still, I'm feeling like I should be doing more. So I gathered my pastor, the musician of my church, a school board member, a city councilman, and they gave me a little send-off from the church. I decided I'd walk 2.5 miles to symbolize that the enslaved people weren't freed for 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. And so I left that church and I walked that 2.5 miles. And the next day I did the same thing. I walked in Fort Worth, Arlington, Grand Prairie, Dallas, Box Springs, Joppa. When my team said I wouldn't be doing it like that because someone had promised us an RV so I could rest, and it didn't happen. They said what I was doing was too political. Please. So the team says I'd only go where I was invited and where they had Juneteenth observances. Well, I was invited all over these United States. Shreveport, Texarkana, Little Rock, Fort Smith, Denver, Colorado, Colorado Springs, St. Louis, Chicago, Atlanta. If I say all over, I mean all over. Alabama. I was invited all over these United States. Well, if I left September 2016, I actually got to Washington January 2017. And we had asked President Obama to walk with us from the Frederick Douglass House to the Capitol, but he was in Chicago. I didn't get what I wanted, but we started a petition and we got 1.5 million signatures that we took to Congress.
Oh, that's great.
And we were prepared to take that many more signatures when we got a call. My granddaughter got a call from the White House. And we ended up going there. And I saw the president sign into law a Juneteenth bill. I was so happy. I didn't know how to act. And I wanted to do a holy dance, but the kid says when I do holy dances, I twerk. So I did.
Well, sorry, you may have to bring the
You can dance anytime you want to dance.
I'll let you do a whole dance. Sorry.
But I believe if we took 1.5 million signatures and we were prepared to do that again, 3 million people could turn this country around.
That's right. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'm wanting people to understand that none of us are free until we're all free.
That's absolutely.
And we aren't free yet. I advocate that we celebrate Juneteenth from the 19th of June to the 4th of July.
I like that.
And so I'm wanting young people, all people, to consider making themselves a committee of one to help somebody that we know are not on the same page we are. Change their minds. It's going to take a bit. It's not going to happen overnight or in a day or so. But their minds can be changed. And just think, if 3 million people are on the same page, we can turn this country around.
Yes,
I believe that.
Yes, ma'am. I believe that too.
All right. Did you have any resistance from, say, the people in Fort Worth or in any of the cities that you traveled in?
I really didn't. I had one man that didn't take a pamphlet I wanted to give him. Other than that, I didn't find anybody who didn't listen to the message. And there were so many people who didn't know.
That was my next question.
Oh, so many people who knew absolutely nothing about Juneteenth. So, I belong to the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation, and they have a pamphlet. It's Juneteenth 101, and we distribute it everywhere we go to make people aware of Juneteenth. And they need to be aware of it. They need to know how those people waited New Year's Eve, waiting and watching for freedom. And we still have churches that do watch night services now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But to make a person, if a person makes himself a committee of one, he doesn't have to do anything spectacular. If he just helps somebody. And we older people need help to get to the grocery store, to the pharmacist, to the doctor. The young people need help too. You could tend to the kids while the mom goes to the grocery store. You could help her by reading to the children while she tries to do the housework. There's any small thing you can do will help us to arrive where we are all free.
That's right.
And I'm saying we are not free as long as we have joblessness and homelessness and health care that some of us can get and others can't. And climate change that we need to do something about desperately. We all must work together, but we can do things individually.
Absolutely.
And I'm hoping that people will.
Absolutely.
Well, now that Juneteenth is a federal holiday, and my company actually gives us that day off work, finally, the last 2 years, where do you want to see it go forward? Or what is the next the next thing that's on the agenda? And how do you plan to celebrate this year?
Well, of course, we'll celebrate if the pandemic's still on. We'll do a caravan instead of a parade. That's what we've done the last couple of times. But there'll be a breakfast of prayer. Not a prayer breakfast where you sit down and eat a lot of food, but a breakfast of prayer.
Okay.
We'll have a flag raising, and always there's a Miss Juneteenth pageant. And we have what's called, I forgot what it's called, but the young people to get together from different nationalities, and they learn music from each one's home, and they do a concert that is beautiful. They work a whole week, and then they do a concert. We got a movie, Miss Juneteenth, and a play, Miss Juneteenth.
Really?
Of course, oh yeah. And then we have barbecue cook-off. I tell you, there are booths that give you information about home buying and all kinds of things. I tell you, Juneteenth is becoming like Christmas.
Yes, yes. Yes, ma'am. Well, Sorority, one of the things we also want to know, now that Juneteenth is a federal holiday, what's next for you? What's next on your activism or your advocacy agenda?
Well, we can't rest on our laurels.
Yes, ma'am.
And one of the things is we have a farm. We polled people who were standing in line at the food bank, and 66 of them said that they were willing to farm. And we chose to work with people who had been incarcerated and couldn't find a job. So we're saying to them that the time they've served is not time lost, that it will be included in what they do and what they learn, and then they are certified by a college in the area, and they go out and teach somebody else about farming. Because we need to know, with the pandemic, I'm afraid folk need to know how to plant in the backyards and in the vacant lots.
Yes, ma'am.
And they come to that. You know?
Yes, ma'am.
So, beside that program, I'm hoping that we can get others to understand that they can do small things to help people. Doesn't have to be anything astronomical. I know I've talked about helping the elderly. I want people to know that we could use some help getting to the store, to the bank, to the doctor. And then there are mothers, young mothers, who need help with their children. Oh, I know I did. I had, what do you call it? People who helped me, my family, with my children when I was in college. My best friend helped my mother with my children, because I had 4 rambunctious kids, 3 boys and a girl. Wow. And my best friend helped my mother with my children. Yeah,
Beautiful.
I tell you, there's still so much to do. And so, whatever shows up, I'm willing to do it.
Awesome, awesome. We love that, Sorority. Now, I want to pivot a little bit. Again, we thank you for allowing us to sit here in your home, but we understand that this space that we're currently sitting in is also set to become a museum. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that makes you feel to know that all of the work you've done will be memorialized in that way?
Well, I don't know where to begin because I'm so happy. I tell you, the Lord's been so good to this old girl, and I wonder if anybody else has all of this? Well, let me tell you. Uh, when we came to Fort Worth, our parents bought a house in a white neighborhood and they didn't want us there. And so they ran us away. The paper says there's 500 of them and the police couldn't control the mob. When my dad came home with a gun, the police told him if he busted a cap, they'd let the mob have us. So my parents sent us to friends several blocks away, and they left under cover of darkness. The people tore the place apart. I'm telling you this because things have come full circle. Because this is going to become a museum. I've acquired that lot where that house was. And the Habitat's going to put me a house on it.
Awesome.
So I can leave this for a museum and start a new house, a new home, where my parents, and I think they'd be looking down from heaven and saying, well done, I do. So that's what's going to happen. And I'm happy as that's not a nice one.
Foot stomping happy. We'll take that. Foot stomping happy.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's the best kind of happy, right?
There you go, there you go.
Happy, that foot stomping happy. Yes, ma'am. And we also understand that the national Juneteenth Museum is going to be built in the city of Fort Worth. Is that?
Indeed it is.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. And I mean, they plan to break ground this spring, and it's to open in 24, and I'm looking forward to that. Oh, national, from all over the United States, people will bring their Juneteenth and maybe loan it to us. We'll get stuff from the Smithsonian. I'm a happy camper. I tell you, I couldn't be happier.
Well, we want to be there with you when it opens. Let me tell you, we're happy with you.
Oh, right.
Yes,
Right.
ma'am.
Alrighty. Well, first of all, before we even start talking about other things sorority-wise, I wanted to talk about your book.
Thank you. I never forget that little fella.
It is just a fascinating, and it's a children's story. And tell us about what inspired you to write this.
I'm wanting the children to be aware of what has happened so that they can learn and heal from what happened so that they won't let it happen again. We don't need to go through that. And we had somebody who was we were almost on the brink, you know? And so I felt like if the children were taught early enough about what actually happens, that they in turn would know and they would see that it wouldn't happen again when they grow up.
Absolutely.
And so that's where I wrote the little fella. And I've got another one on my head called 1619. And that seems to be when a pirate ship raided a slave ship and took off human cargo. Well, they learned that they didn't have enough provisions for themselves in this human cargo. So they landed in Jamestown, Virginia, and they traded 20 of the human cargo for provisions. Some people would like to say that those are the first people, that the first indigenous people that made it to the shores of America in 1619, but there's evidence that there were people here much earlier in the 1500s.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, the entire story of the slavery and indeed of African Americans is an ongoing thing, and we're always finding out things that are just fascinating, and every piece that we learn is a bit more of our history. And so we want to thank you for being part of that history, and thank you for helping us learn about us.
Well, I tell you, I'm having a good time.
And so are we. Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
I'm having a good time. And I appreciate you young people who want to get the story out. And it needs to be out. People need to be aware that what happened in slavery, it still carries over.
That's right.
It does.
We've gone through so many things, and we've overcome. We've overcome. And so we have to be vigilant. We just can't rest on our laurels.
That's right. Absolutely.
We simply have to know that it's our responsibility, each one of us, to see that that doesn't happen.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But on a happier note, I want to talk about you and your legacy in Zeta Phi Beta Sorority. And we are, first of all, over the moon excited to have you as a member. And we want to know what attracted you to our organization and when did you become a member?
Oh, so long ago. My next door neighbor was a Zeta. When I was growing up, she taught school. But I like the idea of final womanhood. I just felt like I wanted to be a part of a group that was uplifting. And so, when I finished college, I joined that group right here in Fort Worth. And I haven't been the best Zeta, but once a Zeta, always a Zeta. And so I'm ready now to do whatever needs to be done. My part to make Zeta Phi Beta whatever it wants to be.
Well, I can certainly say that you're doing your part because whether you are doing it at the chapter level or you're doing it on a personal level like you do.
Yes, ma'am.
When you're doing work in your community, you're doing the work of Zeta.
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
right.
And so we want to thank you for all that you do.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm proud to be a member of Zeta Phi Beta.
And we are proud that you are a member of Zeta Phi Beta.
And as Zetas, how would you like to see your sorority assist you in your efforts with Juneteenth?
Well, I know my sorority has programs, and I wish they would join me when I say each one teach one. I want them to be aware that they can change a person's mind.
Okay.
That if they would take up the mantle, and they don't have to go far to find people there in their workplace and all over that are on the same page we are. Change their minds.
Yes, ma'am.
Show them. Encourage them. Make them aware of what went on. Because lots of people don't know. And I keep thinking, 3 million people can turn this country around.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, what we want to do as your sisters is to always be supportive of you in all of your efforts. We want to make sure that we are marching beside you as you do your work with Juneteenth. And so whatever we can do to support you, we're going to do it. I think I can speak for the Zetas in Texas and Louisiana and say that we're going to make sure that every local group does something for Juneteenth.
I love being part of Zeta, and I want the young people to realize that they have the power to turn the country around. They have that power.
Yes, ma'am.
All they need to do is use it.
This has been awesome, Soror Lee. It brings back memories. I grew up with my great-grandmother and my grandmother and celebrating Juneteenth.
All right.
And just hearing you talk about that and the legacy that you offer is one that's lost, because a lot of the generation we're talking to don't have you. They don't have a grandmother. They don't have a big mama. They don't have someone to tell us our history. And that's a lost art in our communities and our families. Something that you're giving to those of us who I miss my mama. I miss my big mama. And those stories, and just remembering what Juneteenth was like when, you know, and to your point, a lot of people outside of Texas, always thought it was a Texas holiday.
Yeah.
And no, that is part of our national treasure, our national history.
Yes, indeed.
And I'm with you because I'm an East Texas girl. And so I grew up in Beaumont, but my grandparents were Gilmer, Gladewater. And I remember I used to love Juneteenth because that was the one day a year when my grandmother would make homemade ice cream.
Yes.
Baby, yes, I was in for that. So before I really understood what it really was, I was, like you were saying, in it for the food.
We celebrated Juneteenth more than we celebrated the 4th of July.
Correct.
And
We didn't really
it was Juneteenth was when we were going to have a picnic at the church.
Exactly.
And Mama Flossie and, all of us going to get together, and it was going to be a picnic on the yard.
Absolutely.
And again, but that's that East Texas part of it, and I think that the larger cities maybe didn't have it because, as you get to the city, you leave back some of those things. But no, we look for. I thought everybody celebrated Juneteenth until I was probably in college, and they were like, "What are you talking about? That's not a holiday." And yes, it is.
At my house, it is.
It's a holiday.
Exactly.
But also, Soror Lee, I just sitting here next to you, listening to you talk, when you talk about how you started at the age of 89, and so there are so many people, right, as we get older, we feel like, oh, we've done our part, it's somebody else's job. And, you talk about being a Zeta, you embody all of the principles in everything that you have done. Scholarship, service, sisterhood, finer womanhood, that is what you have done. You have lived it. So you are the epitome of what we as Zetas aspire to be, right? Because you have truly lived not just the letters, but the principles and the vision of the organization, and just to be able to see how you continue to work in the community, the farm. We also understand you have a garden,
food pantry.
Yes,
it's a food bank.
Bank.
I mean, it's 32,000 square feet.
Wow.
See, that's sort of
right here behind my house.
That's a distribution center.
That is.
We're definitely going to have to go see that also.
You got to see it.
And
But
we're
not only
definitely going to
that,
have
I
to
want my
support that
children.
effort.
Right, I want my children to come and work in it, because we are blessed that there, but by the grace of God, go me and you. And our children need to understand and give back and learn how to serve others.
Absolutely.
No, man, we got to.
But I just love how your spirit, how you have not stopped, right? I truly believe that while we're here on this earth, we're put here to make a difference our entire lives. And I love how you have lived that.
I mean, the Lord has been extremely good to me. my health, except for what is this I tell you I got?
The shingles.
The shingles. So, and that's my fault, because I didn't take no shingles shot. I didn't know to. I bet you I'll get one soon. And another one and another one.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, wow, because it's a bit much. But the Lord guides you. He lets you know that there are things for you to do.
That's it.
And when you talk to him sometimes, he will tell you in what direction to go. And the food bank and the farm, oh, I just don't know what else we could do. But we're going to follow his direction, whatever he says.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen.
Yes.
Well, we appreciate you again allowing us to sit in your home and have this conversation with you today. This will not be the last conversation, Sora Lee, but we don't want to take up your entire day either.
Okay.
We definitely want to just again say thank you. Madam Regional Director, do you have any parting words that you would like to make on behalf of the region and the
No,
sisterhood?
she don't have to say nothing. I want her to let everybody, every Zeta know about the book. Now, this one is a paperback.
And I see the hardback is on your shelf.
Okay, so we got hardbacks, and it's a special edition, and it has where the president is signing. Let me see. Let's look at the back up.
I believe it's right back. Let's see. Uh-oh.
No, the next one. No, go back. You were right.
I was back. I was right.
There it is.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah. See, the
Let everybody
president
see that.
signing
Yes.
in this special edition. So I want the children to have it. There may be schools and churches and libraries that will get the book.